Everyone, welcome back to the Jay's Fit Down podcast. I'm your host, Jane Gay, and today I'm here with Daryl Green. Um, he is a sports podcaster as well, has his own YouTube channel there. Make sure you guys check him out there on YouTube. Tell us again, man, where can we find you at on YouTube?
You can find me at 24 Hour Sports on YouTube.
Yeah, 24 Hour Sports. Great channel he has there. Make sure you guys subscribe and check him out. You can find us, of course, on Jay's Fit Down on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. That's where we are. Daryl, thank you for joining us today. We got a full lineup talking about the NFL today. Of course, we're in the off season right now. A lot of crazy stuff has already happened, so let's roll right into it. All right, so my first order of business here, man, is our best fits for Odell Beckham Jr. and Ezekiel Elliott. Of course, Odell, we all know, crazy career so far. It's off with the Giants, the catch, right? And injuries in Cleveland, little mess there, and goes to LA, gets his ring. Now he's a free agent. I mean, probably never thought this 5 or 6 years ago. Here we are. So, where do you see your best fits for Odell Beckham Jr.?
For me, it depends on what kind of deal he wants, because if it's more like he's trying to get like a 2-year or a 3-year deal, something worked out to where he can, be on a team, be stable for a couple years. And I can see a team maybe where he's not a number one option, like a Buffalo or something like that. Because last season, when he was a free agent, people were talking about signing him during the season. I was looking at teams like Buffalo. Green Bay was in that, but Aaron Rodgers is going to possibly leave. I don't see him going there now. So another team that I'm interested in for Odell, like I said, depends on what he wants to do. But I've been thinking about the New York Giants because, they're probably going to draft a receiver maybe in the first round. They just got Darren Waller. They got Wan'Dale Robinson, some other guys, still got Saquon. So I'm thinking in a season where they want to compete in the NFC East, maybe receiver Odell is that type of fit for them.
Yeah. The Giants, that's not a bad pick there. I mean, team he's familiar with, obviously, organization that he's familiar with, that he got drafted by and played a good portion of his career with. The Giants had some of his best years in New York. It could be interesting, man. You think about the Giants, they don't really have that true number one receiver. Now, is Odell really a number one anymore? I don't know. But he could be a solid number two. That's what he was with the Rams, right? Last year or year before last when they went to the Super Bowl. He was probably going to win the Super Bowl MVP if he didn't get hurt. Now you say the Giants. So that, do you like their receiving core so far of Shepard, Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, and then if you add a guy like Odell into the mix, you think that could be enough to, elevate it a little bit more, or what do you think?
I think so. I think, I would say that because it's a team that really likes to run the ball at the end of the day. They're probably going to, hit the other defensive pieces in the draft, like corners, guys like that. So now they're going to run the ball, they're going to play defense, and then they got some solid receivers. It's a team they may lack a true number one, and that's kind of going to be a problem. But when you got Odell and, like you said, Sterling Shepard, Wan'Dale, I think the collection of those guys can make up for not having a true number one.
Yeah. You look at it, Sterling Shepard pretty much was forced to be the number one receiver for that team, and then he missed a lot of time with injury. But up until then, he was basically the number one. He has been the last couple of years since Odell really left. He had to really step into that role, and he was pretty adamant about doing that, and he took on that challenge, and he performed pretty well for the most part. Darius Slayton has emerged as a solid number two. Well, now if you get that number one guy, or if you bring in a guy like Odell, he will probably bump into number three role. So, and you see they like to run the ball a lot, and I think they're going to make some more moves in the draft for to see. So, now could you see Odell possibly going to the Jets if Aaron Rodgers goes there?
That's kind of a tough one. I feel like with Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard, and they just got McCole Hardman, I don't know where he would fit on that team. So it's kind of like, because a lot of people, they want to get a group of receivers, a lot of receivers on one team. But at the end of the day, it's one football, and they still have Brees Hall. This gonna be a running football team, regardless Aaron Rodgers or not. So I think it just wouldn't be a fit for him because I know he's gonna want some touches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a guy that um, obviously isn't the guy he once was when he was a Giant early in his career, but he is a player that can still produce when you get the ball in his hands, and you need to get the ball in his hands, in order for him to do that. And you look at the receiving corps for the Jets so far, Alan Lazard, um, McCole Hardman, they just picked up, which I think is a great move, by the way. And Garrett Wilson, who won the Offensive Rookie of the Year, I believe, right? So, yeah, yeah, I mean, it's something to think about there. I know Dallas is out of the mix for him. They already made that clear they're not in the running for him anymore. And the Jets just traded away Elijah Moore. So it seems like they're pretty focused on that receiving core they have right now. So did you like that move, getting that draft capital for Moore back in exchange with Cleveland?
Yeah, I figured even during the season, I figured it was just a matter of time before they moved on. After, he voiced the fact that he wanted to get out of there, it was gonna kind of be tough for me to see him being back on that team next year.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. Because he requested a trade, during the season. They just didn't, honor it. But he did request that trade. It didn't really he didn't really play it all too much either. So yeah, it was pretty adamant that he was going to leave at one point or another from that organization. So, but definitely something to keep an eye out on. Odell, his again, like you said before, it just depends on what he's. I mean, what teams are going to be willing to pay him. He can't. That asking price can't be too high. So if it's him, if he wants to play for a contending team, which is the most likely case here, then um, his range as far as pay is concerned is going to have to be reasonable. So that's something to keep an eye on. So moving on from that note, Ezekiel Elliott, man, long-time staple for the Cowboys. Had a great rookie season, led the league in rushing yards in 2016, and just kind of been on the dip since then. He got cut as we all were expecting. So, what do you see is the next best fit for Ezekiel Elliott? To play in 2023.
Actually, that's kind of as far as Zeke, it's kind of a tough one because I felt like, as far as me, I feel like his fit is to come back to Dallas. I felt like that was the best fit for him. I understand, the contract thing, but I think him being drafted there, being that locker room guy, I feel like that was the best because he's not going to offer you a lot as far as production at this point. He can be, maybe a goal line back, maybe, a short yardage back, but he's not going to be somebody who's really featured. And I think even as like a number 2 running back, a backup, I don't think it's a lot there for Zeke. He's a good pass protector, things of that nature. But I just don't know, especially at his age. And with this is a draft class with a lot of good running backs. So I think if he does get signed, it's going to be to a really cheap deal, or it may be after the draft for a team who didn't get to draft a running back. So still got to really see. I think maybe teams, like Buffalo can still get a short yardage back down there, but it's tough.
Yeah, yeah. And the Bills are a name that kept kind of getting thrown out there for him. I can definitely see the Bills. I mean, they let Singletary go. Brought in Damian Harris from the Pats, but like James Cook. So, I'm not exactly sure about the Bills. Then you got teams like the Chargers. I mean, it seems like Austin Eckler it might be moved pretty soon. So they could use a running back. Might you know draft one. Like you said, it's a deep draft class of running backs. So I can see them drafting one and maybe signing Zeke to a backup deal and letting him just come in like on those goal line situations, short yardage situations, pick up those little tough yards. Or I say even maybe the Vikings. It doesn't seem like Dalvin Cook is going to be back. I don't think it's. I heard his name getting shopped around. I'm not sure if that's completely true, but something to definitely keep an eye on there. So, you think he gets moved?
Dalvin Cook?
Yes.
Based on the trend of the Vikings, I would say maybe it's a possibility, but based on if they really want to compete, then there's no way that they should. Because they already moved on from Adam Thielen, they moved on from Eric Kendrick. They can't move on from everybody.
Well, see, but that's what they're trying to do. Yeah. I mean, well, you know, it seems like I mean, now they did bring back Alexander Madison, to come back there to that running back room. He was very solid when he played. He's a great backup. So it seems like there is a trend that's going on with the Vikings. Like they're moving on from some of these guys that were staples. Already did with Diggs a couple years ago, and now Adam Thielen and Eric Kendricks. So I mean, if Dalvin is up next, I wouldn't be surprised. But if not, then we'll see what happens. I definitely think they need to draft a quarterback though this year. Just I mean, you have to. You really have maybe 2 more years of Kirk Cousins at best, and with Kirk, what are we really talking about here? So I definitely think they should go after a quarterback in the draft. You agree? You think so?
Yeah, that's because I was just about to pitch in. Speaking of you saying that, I've been seeing Hendon Hooker linked to the Vikings a lot, and I actually like a move like that. I love a move like that. Hendon Hooker to the Vikings. And then even because he's one of the older quarterbacks in the draft, so if Kirk Cousins, if he's not performing, he can even see the field this season if they get him. So I would like a move like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like I said, you really like have a year or two of Kirk, at his level that he is right now. And again, that's not saying much. So, I mean, it is the truth. Everybody knows all these. Kirk knows it. And it's our job as analysts to tell the truth. And he just, it's just he's not consistent enough to produce for the Vikings. So. And they've got a great receiving core with Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson. Want to see them get a guy in the draft, a receiver also. Maybe a guy like Zay Flowers, from Boston College, a guy that I really like. He's a prospect I think is going to be really, favored by a lot of these teams. So, definitely go after quarterback. Hendon Hooker, the former ball, would not be a bad pick there. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens there, man. So I see, your team is the Lions, if I'm correct. Judging from your videos, I've seen on YouTube. You're not a Lions.
I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Okay. Yeah. So Pittsburgh fan. Okay, I just thought. Okay, all right. So maybe I watched the video of you analyzing the Detroit Lions. Which I think they're having a great all season so far. With the moves they're making. So with the Steelers, that's a good point, man. Bring up the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, Kenny Pickett, and Najee Harris, George. Like, what are the Steelers like? What are they, man? Like, I think that's what they're trying to figure out their identity. What's going on with Pittsburgh, man? What are they, man?
I mean, I feel like a team like us, I'm not really concerned about the draft. I'm not really concerned about free agency. I'm more concerned about the development of what we already have. Because I think we got some nice pieces. We just got to develop them. Like, I really like George Pickens. I think Deontay Johnson could be like a top 10 receiver. And then I think our offensive line probably going to draft, add to that. But Kenny Pickett, from what I saw in the second half of the season, he was going back and forth with Mr. Trubisky a little bit. But once he really got the keys to the offense, I think he showed some promise, and I'm not really asking Kenny Pickett to be, like a Joe Burrow or a Patrick Mahomes. I don't want him to do that. If he can just, not turn over the ball, complete passes, get first downs, I want to see Najee Harris really carry the offense. And I think we can do that if we really just develop and add to the offensive line.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Steelers, are a team where they've got some solid pieces, and maybe the offensive line is a place of concern. For them, defensively, you got some great players over there. You lost Cam Sutton to the Lions. I mean, that was a huge loss. He's a great player. And Cam Hayward is kind of like on his last few legs. So I mean, definitely want to see them address the defense a little bit in the draft. And just continue to improve the guys they have right there. Of course, T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, great players. So but yeah, I think Kenny Pickett is a good quarterback. I think he's a guy that's going to be a good quarterback in this league. So just hopefully they can just continue to improve and go under the right track as far as development, get the right guys in there around him, and hopefully the offensive play calling will be much better than it was this year. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, not very good. I know a lot of. It's funny, man. A lot of Steelers fans were really pissed when when they announced that Matt Canada would retain his role as OC. They were like, you should have seen the Twitter, but they're like, oh no, why? We don't like this guy calling the plays. So hopefully that can be a little bit better. But I think the Steelers are a team that they should, if not, be a wild card team, at least close to that next year. So if everybody stays healthy, so yeah, I totally think that. But moving on here, man. Now we're going to move into our start bench cut segment of the podcast. Something new we're trying here. Now we have Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Peyton Manning. Who are you starting? Who are you benching? Who are you cutting?
You said Brees, Rodgers, and Manning?
That's correct.
I think I gotta start Peyton Manning. I feel solid with saying that. I think going with it, I would have to bench Drew Brees. I'm sorry, I gotta cut Aaron Rodgers. It's a tough one. I think Aaron Rodgers has, all the arm talent, all that. But as far as having the number one seed and just coming up short, it's just like seeing that with the teams that he's had and falling so short of that, it's kind of like knocked him a little bit. As far as how I look at him with like a Brees, Brady, Manning, he's not below them as a player, but as far as how we're gonna look at him all the time, I think he has to be just a little tier below.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. So I think mine's will be. I'm definitely starting Peyton Manning. I am benching Drew Brees. And I think we have the same mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm cutting Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, it's like, look, Peyton Manning, he's, one of the smartest minds to play the game, along with Tom Brady at that position, and Drew Brees, great quarterback, arm talent was good, until his later years, and he was very, instinctful, accurate, very accurate quarterback. Always was top up there in passing yards. And Aaron Rodgers, man, like, it's just like you said, man. You had those teams, like the Packers weren't perfect, but they had the number one seed in these past couple years, and they just couldn't get it done. And then you get I think the last three, the previous two the playoff appearances they had, they lost, like on their home turf. They lost to the Lions on their home turf last year. They missed getting into the playoffs. So things like that, man. Like you gotta win those games. You gotta. In the Packers, man, like Aaron Rodgers, then always the off the field stuff, like every offseason it's like this cycle, this waiting game, like. Oh, he's got to get away. He's going away. The darkness retreat, right? And all this stuff. Like, Aaron Rodgers, man. He's a. Don't get me wrong, man. I love the dude. He's a great, one of the greatest to play this game. First ballot Hall of Famer, I think. But man, it's just always it gets tiring, and it gets tiring as an analyst, covering that. And then, as a football fan, it gets tiring watching that. And I know it's got to be tiring for him to do the same thing every year. Maybe not, though, because he keeps doing it. So, but yeah, man, that about wraps up here for the podcast, man. Like I said, great off season so far. A lot of big trades and signings that we have here. that we've had so far. And the draft coming up in April, pro day is going to be over these next couple of days, so definitely keep an eye on these quarterbacks. So yeah, man, we appreciate you coming on there on the podcast, giving us your thoughts and insights, and we'll definitely be talking to you very soon, especially getting closer to the draft. So just be on the lookout to be hearing from me then. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Of course, man. But thank you for coming on, man. And make sure you guys check out Daryl's channel on YouTube. I'm going to provide a link to that in the description below, and make sure you guys check us out here at Jay Smith Down as well. Thank you, Daryl, for coming on and talking some ball with us today.
No problem.
All right, man. Well, you take it easy. You have a great rest of your day, bro. Okay.
All right, you too.